morning. Please be seated. Recently, my son and I enjoyed driving down Main Street, seeing all the pretty Christmas lights decorating our town, transforming the empty, dark storefronts. As we walked around our neighborhood near Johnson Street, we delighted in the beautiful bright light shining in the deep December darkness, the exquisite sapphire blue icicles hanging from the roofs, the bright cherry reds and gorgeous emerald greens illuminating the gardens, lights rapidly cycling from pretty pink to vibrant violet, bringing joy to an otherwise bleak winter landscape, and the interior of houses lit up with the luminous warmth of Christmas tree lights and electric candles, whole neighborhoods transformed into a wonderful winter wonderland. Well, our gospel reading today also describes the wonder of light shining in the darkness, a light to which John bore witness, shining brightly in the bleak first century Palestine, a light that would eventually spread through the witness of the disciples to enlighten the whole world. John was very clear that he himself was not the light, and he repeated the fact over and over again to the religious authorities who came from Jerusalem to find out what on earth he was doing in the wilderness. Why was he baptizing the multitudes to prepare them to meet the Messiah? John confessed to them that no, he himself was not the Messiah. His role was instead to testify to witness to point to the true light that shines in the scary shadows of a violent and unpredictable world. John was to show others the one who is the true light, the one who brings vibrant color, the vibrant color of abundant life, illumination to obscurity, and joy to gray uniformity. John was perfectly clear about his role as a witness. How easy it is to lose sight of our calling to be witnesses, and in our hubris to begin to think that when people come to us, that we are the light. I think that this can be a particular temptation for those of us in the caring professions. We can start to believe when all is going well that we have all the answers to people's dark problems because, after all, didn't we study for it? We can forget that we ourselves desperately need the light to shine in the very real darkness in our imperfect hearts, minds, and souls. A darkness which only Jesus the Messiah can illuminate, and then only if we recognize our need of Jesus and allow him in. Apparently, the shortest letter to the newspaper, the Daily Mail, is one by the Christian author G.K. Chesterton. When the editor of the newspaper invited readers to answer the question, "What's wrong with the world?" G.K. Chesterton is reputed to have written, "Dear Sir, I am." Like John, G.K. Chesterton was under no illusions that he himself was the light, but he knew who the light was and is. As Christians, we are so blessed to know Jesus, the longed-for Messiah, the light of the world. And Christ's light is pure and strong because he is the only human being who has ever existed, who is perfect, sinless God and man. What wonderful news we have to share, that Jesus is the light that lasts forever. His bulbs don't die on the tree. Indeed, the brightest light of all shone from the tree of Calvary where Jesus hung. The glory of God's love, which no evil powers of darkness can ever extinguish. No sudden power outages from ice storms like last winter can cut off Jesus' light. For Jesus is risen from the dead, alive forevermore, and shining brightly for all to see for all time. Most of us will pack away our pretty candles, our tree lights and icicles sometime after January the 5th, though some renegades keep them up until March, leaving the deep winter darkness of January, February and March to prevail. You see, the luminous transformation of our homes and country during Advent and Christmas is at best temporary and partial. Some of us will feel post-Christmas blues, a feeling of emptiness and loss after the highlight of sparkling parties. But the marvelous news that we can testify to is that Jesus is the light that endures, when all that glitters but is not gold has disappeared. Frankly, not all of us in High Point will be blessed with plenty of food and wonderful presents at Christmas. Not all of us will have a loving family surrounding us. But Jesus is the light who can be enjoyed every day by everyone, rich or poor, old or young, of whatever race. Jesus' light is stronger than all the dark hatred, suspicion, abuse, fear, and wickedness that have recently received the spotlight in the news, with the issues about police use of force, especially in the African American community, the full published report of the CIA's use of torture, and the second anniversary of the Sandy Hook massacre. It's uncomfortable, isn't it, to acknowledge how very much darkness there is in our country and in the world. How we need Jesus' light of love to shine in the darkness and transform the very core of our being as individuals and as a society, to make this old, suffering world new. Our Old Testament reading of Isaiah 61 speaks of the transformation which God will bring to his world through his anointed prophet. Good news to the oppressed and mourning by establishing justice and righteousness in the here and now on earth. God isn't about superficial change, moving deck chairs on the Titanic. He is about real substantive change that strikes at the very roots of who we are as individuals and as a society. And God longs to bring healing to the brokenhearted and economic, social, and spiritual liberation to the captives. That is why God sent Jesus, the fulfillment of Isaiah's prophecy. Jesus is the joy to the world, not just of Christmas, but of every day. So what role do we have to play at St. Mary's as followers of Jesus in the transformation of this world into a place of light? I think that Adeline Craven's baptism 2 weeks ago gives us a clue. After her baptism, we lit her candle from the Easter Paschal candle, which represents the light of Christ. And I said to her, "Receive the light of Christ, that you may be a light to the world." Friends, it's only when we personally have received the light and allowed and continue to allow God to transform us that we can reflect Jesus' light to others. So I ask this morning, have you received the light of Christ into your darkest inner recesses? Are you allowing Jesus to free you from captivity to unhealthy habits and thought patterns, to heal broken relationships? If we have received the light of Christ, God calls us to be like John, to bear witness to Christ's light. We're to speak with our voices and show in the way we treat other people that Jesus brings healing, hope, and salvation. we can be the voices crying out in the Christmas craziness that salvation isn't found in the abundance of beautiful and awesome presents. Salvation is instead found in the abundant love of our Saviour Jesus. After all, only Jesus can fill our hearts and minds full to overflowing with a love that fits just right, that doesn't need to be returned to the store. A love that counteracts our acquisitiveness, our endless inner dissatisfaction. Jesus' love soothes our frazzled nerves and restores us from the exhaustion of this season of Santa. And by giving generously to local, national, and international organizations that work to bind up the brokenhearted and feed the hungry, we can reflect the light of Jesus. I don't know whether you know, but here in High Point in January, the Human Relations Council, working with the High Point Police Department, will initiate forum groups to discuss how we can make our beloved city a safer, more equitable place for all to live. And I hope and pray that some of us at St. Mary's will participate in those groups to show we care. On January the 17th, a group from our church will again walk down one of the poorest areas in our town, Green Street, as part of the Martin Luther King Day Parade. Why do we do this? We do this, friends, to testify, as John once did, to the peace, love, and justice that Jesus brings as the light of the world, who shines not just at Christmas, but all year round for eternity. Will you join us?